Shocking reason: Mary Custis Lee. The wife of Robert E. Lee was captured during the American Civilwar. Please listen to the end to find out why. In the sweltering summer of 1862, amidst the turmoil of the Civil War in Virginia, a significant upheaval was unfolding for one courageous woman. Mary Custis Lee, spouse of General Robert E. Lee, stood on the porch of her Arlington residence, unaware that her life was on the brink of a profound transformation. With the distant echoes of cannon fire and the approach of Union soldiers, Mary confronted an invasion that would challenge her fortitude and resolve. As the soldiers sought intelligence regarding her husband, she emerged as a beacon of bravery, striving to safeguard her family during perilous times. We invite you to explore the remarkable narrative of Mary Custis Lee's capture, a tale imbued with valor and determination. If you appreciate such historical accounts and wish to learn more about extraordinary figures from the past, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel for additional compelling content. In 1862, as the Civil War swept through Virginia, a notable event captured the attention of the Northern media: the capture of Mary Custis Lee, the wife of General Robert E. Lee. On June 2, 1862, the Chicago Tribune reported that Mrs. Lee and her two daughters were apprehended near Hanover Courthouse, a mere 20 miles from Richmond. This occurrence reverberated through both the Confederacy and the Union, underscoring the personal ramifications of a conflict that had already taken a heavy toll. Mary Custis Lee was more than just a general's wife. She was a woman of remarkable strength and resilience, deeply connected to her family's heritage. As the daughter of George Washington Parke Custis, she represented the essence of a past era, yet her existence was now entangled in a conflict that threatened to dismantle all that she cherished. The capture was not simply a strategic military action, it was a significant personal loss that highlighted the turmoil of war. When the Civil War broke out, Mary Custis Lee found herself far from her cherished Arlington estate, residing at the White House along the Pamunkey River. As the Army of the Potomac progressed along the Virginia Peninsula, she was in the process of preparing for a move to the residence of Edmund Ruffin in Marlborough, Hanover County. It was at the White House, the home of her son, Colonel Fitzhugh Lee, that the Union Army made its entrance. On that pivotal day, General George B. McClellan facilitated Mrs. Lee's safe passage through Union lines to Richmond. Prior to her departure, she composed a poignant note on the door, appealing to Union troops to respect the historical importance of her home, which held deep connections to both the Custis and Washington families. To her relief, McClellan instructed guards to safeguard the house, ensuring it would remain unharmed. As dawn broke on May 15, 1862, Trooper Francis Adams of the 1st New York Cavalry arrived at the White House amidst a gentle rain. He recounted a scene that was both melancholic and striking. General Henry Warner Slocum and other officers, soaked from their journey, sought shelter in the modest cabin of an elderly black man, thankful for even a small flicker of warmth from the few smoldering embers in the fireplace. The White House plantation extended across a vast expanse of fertile soil, easily cultivable and evidently well kept. Fields of clover rose a foot high beside flourishing crops of rye, wheat, and corn that extended endlessly. Ancient shade trees punctuated the landscape, while wide avenues adorned with willows and cedars offered charming pathways. This plantation, once part of the Custis estate, had been inherited by the Lee family over generations. As they traveled up the Pamunkey River, Adams observed the scenery becoming increasingly picturesque. The plantations grew larger and more meticulously tended, and their residents appeared to be more affluent and cultured. It was as though they were traversing a series of exquisite gardens that beckoned admiration. Nevertheless, a sense of unease lingered among the local populace. They approached the Union soldiers with hesitance, clearly unsettled by their presence. The estates bore a striking resemblance to those found in England's West Country. A high ridge along the riverbank, shrouded by towering trees and vines, offered refreshing shade during the summer heat. Atop this ridge stood the Lee House, a charming cottage featuring 19th-century Gothic windows and pointed gables overlooking the river and surrounded by a verdant lawn dotted with shade trees. A gravel path led to its front entrance, signifying a place of both beauty and importance. In those turbulent times, Mary Custis Lee's journey symbolized not only her personal challenges, but also those of countless families ensnared in the turmoil of war. Her resilience in the face of uncertainty became a testament to her strength as she navigated a world disrupted by conflict. The grounds of the White House plantation, though modest, were beautifully arranged, reflecting a deep sense of care and attention. The cottage presented an atmosphere of neatness and simplicity, radiating a subtle allure. Adjacent to it, vibrant flower and vegetable gardens flourished, while expansive fodder yards, barns, and cribs brimmed with wheat, corn, and various grains. Beneath these structures, a small village of cabins inhabited by enslaved individuals extended along the ridge, arranged in orderly streets. The inhabitants of these cabins appeared to be well looked after and content. According to the stipulations of the custodian's will, they were to be emancipated on July 4th, a date that held great significance. During my discussions with several of them, I discovered their strong attachment to the land and their indifference towards altering their status, provided their safety was guaranteed against being sold away from the plantation. Within this ridge lay a deep ravine, adorned with tangled vines and lush foliage, where bubbling springs offered a plentiful supply of pure, cold water. Inside the cottage, Mrs. Lee, her sister, and a few devoted servants sought refuge from us. We quickly positioned guards around the house and gardens, while the quartermaster took measures to protect the grain and forage. This was crucial to prevent unnecessary damage to the property. Our objective was to preserve both the land and its resources for our own benefit, emphasizing that our army had come to safeguard Southern families and their possessions, rather than to wage war against defenseless women and children. Stationing guards around this modest dwelling seemed not only appropriate, but essential. The young gentlemen of the Sanitary Commission, an organization committed to supplying essential resources to soldiers, aspired to convert this residence into a hospital. However, dissatisfaction emerged when they recognized that the property could not meet their requirements. Although it might have provided comfortable accommodations for a limited number of officers, its restricted space rendered it unsuitable for a hospital. At approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as the rain finally subsided, General McClellan arrived and established his headquarters in tents set up on the lawn in front of the house. That evening, we partook in a modest supper before settling down on the damp ground, wrapped in our blankets. Pigs wandered freely across the plantation, quickly becoming a source of envy among our soldiers. Some soldiers recklessly attempted to capture them, jeopardizing their discipline under McClellan's stringent orders and displaying a blatant disregard for General Andrew Porter's authority. Thus unfolds the narrative of Union troops encroaching upon Mary Custis Lee's estate along the Peamunk River, a story not solely of conquest, but of revelation. Mrs. Lee was discovered in her home and granted safe passage to Richmond, Virginia, a journey that would lead her into an uncertain future amidst a nation divided by war. The summer of 1862 was oppressively hot in Arlington, Virginia, yet the heat paled in comparison to the tension that permeated the atmosphere. Mary Custis Lee stood on the porch of her family's estate, her heart burdened with anxiety. Her husband, General Robert E. Lee, was commanding Confederate forces against the Union Army, and each day brought news of battles fought and lives lost. As she surveyed the distant horizon, a wave of foreboding enveloped her. The air was heavy with the sounds of distant cannon fire, a stark reminder of the ever-present danger. Mary had always embodied strength and determination, but today felt markedly different. Today, she felt an ominous premonition that the war would soon intrude upon her life. The peace that enveloped her shattered abruptly as a contingent of Union soldiers approached her. Residents. A wave of panic washed over Mary as she recognized their uniforms. They were not here for friendly exchanges. "Mrs. Lee," called a tall officer as he dismounted, his tone sharp and authoritative, "we need to search your home for information regarding General Lee's movements." Mary's heart raced as she struggled to maintain her composure. "You have no right to invade my home," she responded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The officer's expression hardened. "Your husband is our enemy," he stated coldly, "and that makes you one as well." As they entered her home, Mary experienced a profound sense of violation. Soldiers rummaged through her possessions, letters filled with affection for Robert, and treasured family heirlooms were carelessly discarded as if they held no value. Each item they disturbed felt like a theft not merely of belongings, but of her very essence. In a moment of desperation, Mary understood that she needed to act swiftly. She had overheard murmurs among the soldiers regarding their plans and movements. Perhaps she could leverage this knowledge to safeguard herself and her family. "If you seek information," she declared boldly, "you will not find it here." The officer hesitated, intrigued by her defiance, yet not fully convinced. "And what leads you to believe you possess any knowledge of his plans?" he inquired. "I know my husband," Mary replied fiercely. "He would never endanger his family by disclosing his strategies to anyone, especially not to me." The officer regarded her with a newfound respect, though skepticism lingered. "Cleverness will not shield you from our scrutiny," he cautioned. Days morphed into a torturous blur as Union troops solidified their presence in Arlington. Although Mary was not officially confined, she felt like a captive in her own home, every action monitored by soldiers who perceived her as an enemy combatant. Amidst this chaos, Mary found solace in tending to her children. She wove narratives of valor and courage to uplift their spirits while concealing the anxiety that plagued her heart. Each evening she composed letters to Robert, infused with affection, yet subtly conveying the gravity of their dire circumstances. As whispers circulated regarding Union strategies to push deeper into Virginia, a development that could jeopardize both Robert and their family, Mary recognized that time was of the essence. She felt confined within walls that had once symbolized security, but now felt like a prison. Resolute not to yield to hopelessness, Mary summoned her resolve and began to devise an escape plan. Alongside Clara, a fellow Southern woman ensnared in the turmoil, they crafted an audacious strategy during a supply run to Richmond. One fateful night, shrouded in darkness, Mary and Clara evaded their captors and ventured into the thick woods encircling Arlington. The moonlight filtered through the branches as they navigated the perilous landscape fraught with hidden threats. With each step away from their confinement, they experienced a revitalized sense of determination. Their goal was to reach Richmond and convey crucial intelligence regarding Union movements directly to General Lee. They moved stealthily through the underbrush, their hearts racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Every sound in the foliage sent chills down their spines. Would they be apprehended? Would they find their way back to safety? After days of treacherous travel and close calls with Union patrols, Mary and Clara finally arrived in Richmond, just as dawn illuminated the city, a place still vibrant with Confederate spirit despite its trials. When Mary ultimately reunited with Robert in a secluded location, the moment was filled with both relief and urgency. In a location outside Richmond, The moment was charged with emotion, characterized by relief and gratitude. He held her closely. Both had faced immense trials, yet they remained unyielding in the face of war's unrelenting force. "I feared I would never see you again," he whispered into her hair. "I fought for our family," Mary responded with a determination, "and I will continue to fight." Despite the ongoing advance of the war, with battles waged and lives lost, Mary Custis Lee emerged from this harrowing ordeal as a beacon of resilience and strength. Her capture at Arlington transcended a mere event. It became integral to a broader narrative concerning the roles of women during times of conflict. Women who confronted unimaginable hardships yet rose above them with bravery and resolve. As seasons shifted and years elapsed following the conclusion of the war, Mary frequently contemplated those turbulent days at Arlington, days that tested her fortitude, but ultimately defined her legacy as a devoted wife and mother who confronted adversity with unwavering courage. You can watch our previous videos titled "The Native American Sharpshooter: The Role of George Washington as a Commander-in-Chief," "The Aftermath of Hiroshima Explosion," "The Shocking Story About General Custer's Ending," "The Execution of Ken Saro-Wiwa," "Africa's Bloodiest Civil War," "IBB Coup 1985," etc.